Hi guys, it's me, Laura. Welcome back to my channel, TheRealLauraB, and it is tea time because we're going to do a weekly roundup of some topics I found interesting, and I hope you do too. So let's get started. Hi, I'm Laura, also known as TheRealLauraB from Twitter. I'm a researcher, truth seeker, and a new wave internet journalist. I'm not a lawyer, nor offering any legal advice. Join me on a journey to draw the curtain back to expose key news developments in the world of celebrity lawsuits and current events. Let's get started. Okay, so there were some interesting topics coming up, and just interesting bits here and there. And I thought I'd start off with something from Johnny. So this is an old interview that popped up, and I found it interesting in his words choices because they certainly reminded me of somebody. And let's see. So here's an interview that Johnny did back in April 30th, 2022. I know how it feels to be fed to the lions.
It's an area that I've explored myself. In terms of state of mind and when you suddenly feel like you're in the middle of the Colosseum in Rome, and the joint's packed, and everyone's just staring at you, waiting for you to meet the lion.
Well, that sounds interesting. So let's take a look at where we've heard this recently.
Was lopsided, and I appreciate your saying that. It's like the Roman Colosseum, how they viewed this whole case. I was against cameras in the courtroom, and I went on record with that and had argued against.
So what do you think? Do you think Amber was writing the script for Elaine and been stalking her ex? Sure looks like that to me. So Johnny first talks about being in the Colosseum with everybody watching him, waiting to be eaten by the lions. And Elaine goes on to say, yeah, having cameras in the courtroom was like being in the Colosseum, waiting to be bounced on. Anyway, more in the news today or this week. So we have Fox News reporting this week how Johnny Depp's verdict could impact the Petito family lawsuit against Brian Laundrie's parents. What they're citing down here is that the Laundries are civilly liable for their lawyer's statements that they authorized and the lawyer made on their behalf, says the federal prosecutor who is in Los Angeles. This is a basic tenet of principal-agent relationships under the law. And they're specifically citing Johnny Depp was recently been found liable for defaming his wife through his lawyer's comments. So I thought that was interesting how already so quickly this is affecting Johnny, affecting other cases that they're relying on it. So let's remember that Johnny Depp's, when the judgment came in, they reserved some objections. We'll run down. There's the judgment, and at the bottom of the judgment, here we are. We have some objections. So Johnny's team has filed their objections, specifically the jury's finding of defamation by Mr. Depp as to the statement made by Adam Waldman that long statement is contrary to law and unsupported by the facts. So they've reserved this objection. I don't think they're going to file an appeal. I think they're waiting to see what Amber's going to do, but they've already objected to this. It's already influencing other cases. So I just found that interesting. Anyway, what else we have in the news? Jax, my partner in crime when we did the podcast Movies, Myths, and Monsters, is continuing to do now in video format with Brian, Incredibly Average Brian here from YouTube, which I'm so excited about for them. And they've released some new information from the trial, some new evidence. So let's take a look at that. Here's an email from Adam to Brown Rudnick. and that would be Ben Chu's law firm. It summarizes his phone call with Josh Drew, who admits Raquel was lying in wait in the closet for the ambush. Now, this was done November 11th, and Josh's deposition would have happened fairly soon after that, which is why he's saying urgent. I have interviewed Drew. Here are the key points from the call. Rocky and Amber's sworn stories that she was summoned by an 8:07 p.m. text to come help her with the berserk Johnny was a lie. Well, of course, we saw the text, and there was, now we've seen the text. He didn't then, and there was nothing in there about needing help. It was just, can you come over, very casually. Rocky was hiding in penthouse 5 all along, almost certainly in the coat closet by the front door, which explains both the security guard's testimony that she never came past them and was already in the apartment when they entered, and Johnny's that Rocky just came out of nowhere. Johnny said that Rocky just came out of nowhere past his right shoulder to go stand with Amber. Super important fact, and I hope he will repeat it. This makes the whole thing a setup and discredits both their testimony. Second, Amber was sleeping with Musk all the week after the 21st, obviously not the night, Franco's night, the 22nd. Third, Amber and Musk were into some kinky things together, and he didn't elaborate. This is Josh telling Adam this in an interview. She did have marks on her at times. He even seemed to suggest she had marks on her the night of the 21st, although, of course, we know that is not true. Do we know if he ever gave a declaration to Amber? I bet he did back then. So we do know that there was an email filed back in 2016 that Samantha Spector had gotten them all to write. There was a long gap between Johnny's departure and calling the cops, perhaps an hour or more. He couldn't be precise. This is, again, Josh telling him, and this is before all the discovery was done. During that time, they all sat together in PH3 on the phone with Samantha Spector, her divorce lawyer, who was guiding them to writing it all down to get their story straight before calling the cops. This is what Josh is telling Adam Waldman in an interview before he did his deposition. Well, of course, we know Josh flipped back to a different story. That's what makes this so important. So this call was 8 days before the deposition, which was November 19th. Something happened in that week that made him not give up this information at the deposition. Well, he admitted that he started meeting with Amber shortly before his deposition, getting to know her again, catching up, and then suddenly he flips. I posted, I bet Josh, via the NGN lawyers or Kaplan at the time, filed his deposition in full and the email with his witness statement to the UK to head this off. Sadly, then, I think it becomes hearsay in Virginia. And what I'm talking about is when Josh Drew filed his witness statement in the UK, he attached his entire deposition transcript, including that email that they created to get their story straight, if you will. It was all marked confidential. It was not to be shared, and Josh did send it to the UK. So I think he was trying to head off knowing, I had this conversation with Adam. They might bring it up in the UK. Let's get this out there. And I think Andrea had an important response here. It's a prior inconsistent statement. Adam could have been called as a rebuttal witness to impeach Josh. The problem is it might have opened up doors as a waiver of privilege. If I could record a witness interview, I'd have an investigator sit on it for exactly the same reason. So I thought that was interesting that, then you kind of open that door to attorney privilege, attorney-client counsel privilege. Now, this would have happened before Amber Heard filed her counterclaim. So it's a good thing that they didn't, because that might have opened that door against Adam and Johnny. So that was a good thing. Too bad they couldn't impeach Josh in the UK because Judge Nichols thought he was the strongest witness, but it just didn't come in. So now we've got a new update on Amber in Australia. So let's bring up the last one we saw. This is Sienna had posted this, and let's give a listen. And this is from
prosecution of Miss Amber Heard in Australia in 2016, and is currently liaising with the Australian Federal Police and the Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecutions on the matter.
So it's been going for over 12 months now, is that correct?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
I'm sorry if it's hard to hear me. I said it's been going for over 12 months now, hasn't it?
Yes, that's correct, Senator.
And can you tell me why it has taken this long?
Well, this is an ongoing investigation, and I prefer not to comment on the details as to why it's taken so long.
Well, Senator, I think that it's a matter of, sort of strong public record about the decisive action taken by the then Agriculture Minister and the high-profile comments that that the now Deputy Prime Minister made in relation to the inappropriate importation and the failure to declare the two dogs, and of course their subsequent departure from Australia. The issue of criminal liability is a serious issue. We take it very seriously if people mislead us or provide false statements in relation to their incoming passenger cards, and we're obviously aware of the allegations. Mr. Timpson has indicated that we are working with the law enforcement authorities, but you obviously wouldn't expect that we could say anything that would sort of go to any of the detail of those inquiries. The AFP and others may be prepared to talk in more detail, but we really can't say much more than we have.
So this is back October 26, 2021. All of a sudden this week, now we're getting several news stories coming out, reviving this, which I think is exciting because I hope that means something's going on. Amber Heard is still being investigated in an ongoing perjury case in Australia. Amber Heard's troubles aren't over yet. In a statement to ET on Tuesday, a spokesperson from the Australian Department of Agriculture, Water and the Environment said the Department of Agriculture, Water and Environment is investigating allegations of perjury by Ms. Heard during court proceedings for the 2015 illegal importation of her two dogs. The spokesperson confirmed that it's still ongoing. Several were reporting on it, and I thought that was exciting. And then a TikToker put this out. Here's what seems to be a brand new hearing.
Amber Heard, I can confirm the department is investigating that matter. So there was evidence presented in the London court case which suggested false statements were provided in the court case in Australia in 2016. So we are investigating that.
So what's the timeline? You expect that investigation and decision made about? As I understand it, the former state manager of Johnny Depp, Kevin Murphy, said in a witness statement that he told Heard, quote, by email, telephone and in person, that she could not take the dogs to Australia because the relevant paperwork and permits were not complete and the required 10-day quarantine arrangements had not been put in place. Murphy continued, Ms. Heard later told the court in Australia that I had told her it was fine to bring the dogs into Australia. That is false. I never told her this.
Yes, so Senator, we understand that to be the case, or the evidence provided in the London court case, and giving a false testimony is an offence under the Crimes Act. So that is what we are now investigating. Amber Heard, I can confirm the department is in.
And this is, it's got a user down here from Julia Floyd Smith. So I find that interesting that they're still investigating it. It seems they have gotten Murphy's statement. Hopefully something will come out of this. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. Maybe it's a minor issue for them. They're working with someone in America to take these statements to follow up on it. So fingers crossed, something will come of this. So there's been an article out, again, on Amber. And this is mostly relying on Reddit. Amber Heard no longer UN human rights champion. The internet's been buzzing with speculation around Amber Heard's current status. I did go to the site. I did search her name. I couldn't find anything recent. I couldn't find anything that she's still listed somehow. So a Reddit fan claims she's no longer a UN champion. The user shared the message. The UN Human Rights Commission finally removed Amber Heard's page from their website after determining she was no longer fit to be the champion of domestic abuse victims. That's the user making that statement, not the UN Human Rights Commission. Another user shared a similar message. Shortly after the United Nations Human Rights High Commissioner parted ways with Amber Heard, the UN made it clear they stood with victims of domestic violence, regardless of the victor's gender identity. Although it is true that Heard's UN page is not available, but the speculations about her removal are baseless, as there's been no official statement. And that's true. And I think that's actually what we're going to see more of, is anybody who's distancing themselves from Amber Heard are not going to make big, huge statements about it. They're just going to fade away. Now, one of the things we saw from, again, another from the Daily Mail, for example, but the other people have reported it. Oh, this site's going to be a pain in the neck. Talk of the town. Amber Heard joins Harry and Meghan's public speaking agency to make £25,000 per speech. So that's what it was reported, that she was with the Harry Walker agency based in New York. And I don't need to go through this whole thing, but just to show that she did have a separate agent to represent her speaking engagements. And here's what I found very interesting. If we go to William Morris Endeavor Agency, let's look at them. All right. So it was reported that they had acquired Harry Walker speakers, and they represent, WME represents Amber Heard, and we saw her agent came and give testimony recently. So we assume they're still connected. I mean, Amber Heard still did Aquaman, and I don't know what other projects she'll do going forward. Hopefully not. But so we assume that they're still representing her. And if you come down here, you will see this is all of their other companies that they own. And there is the Harry Walker Agency. And you can search by speaker name. Well, I had done this in the past because I use this quite often. And let me share this other screen for a minute. And share this one, because this is what you used to see on their site. I don't know if I can blow that up a little bit. Yeah. Amber Heard with the Harry Walker Agency, that she is a speaker. You can hire her, that she became a virtual speaker when the beer bug hit. And I used to use this a lot because people used to complain, well, whoever made money by falsely claiming abuse? Well, in April 2018, TMZ misreported that she had donated all of her money, and after all the settlement money. And after that happened, these organizations hired her to speak or represent them. And I always kept making that connection. So this used to be her Harry Walker page. And now go back to Harry Walker. I search for speaker. Oops. I find this really important because they are directly owned by her talent agent, William Morris Endeavor. So she's, again, people are just going to kind of disappear and back off and not make a big deal out of it. So what else was in the news for Johnny? I thought it was excited. So Stephen Deuters and his wife Gina were at Glastonbury to present Crock of Gold with Shane, and I thought that was really incredible and great. And they were doing a little bit of posting there. But who else was there was Paul McCartney. He performed. Paul McCartney features Johnny Depp clip during headlining in the Glastonbury set. Fans are divided, and he's singing, and they're not showing Johnny's clip. And when he did Valentine, My Valentine is when it came up. And he showed it on the big screen on the stage. I will tell you from my personal experience that I attended Paul McCartney's concert back in May of 2019. He did an amazing concert. It was like 3 hours long, nonstop, no breaks. And he had the same video set then of Johnny doing My Valentine. So I don't know what the big deal is, quite honestly. And remember, Paul went through it with his own ex-wife, Heather Mills, so I'm sure he relates to Johnny's ordeal, and they are very good friends. But to suddenly make this such a big controversy is just typical mainstream media fodder. They're looking for anything and everything. So who else is happening? Got some news. I'm excited for Joe Perry, good friend of Johnny's. I shared this last week that Joe is going out on tour. He's still got, this is his official site, joeperry.com. The Deuces Are Wild tour. He's got the Vegas residency back in September, but he is going out in July locally, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, his hometown, and Atlantic City. So if you're in that area, please have a visit. But here is something else that I thought was exciting. This just popped up on my Instagram. Joe Perry, again, on tour, he is going to be updating and revamping his YouTube channel. Please go and subscribe. He's got, he's planning on re-releasing or releasing another solo album on vinyl called Sweetzerland Manifesto MKII later this year. He's going to have some new music, and he's going to be posting some of that new music to his YouTube. So it's here. I'll put a link below. But please go give him a follow and support Joe and Johnny's friends in their upcoming new music. So what else happened? Oh, well, there's a big rumor that came out that Disney was going to offer Johnny $301 million to come back to play Captain Jack Sparrow. Johnny said he would not do it for $300 million and a million alpacas. So I guess that's how the rumor came up with $301 million. Well, of course, that's not true. Johnny's representatives came out and said, the truth about Johnny Depp's rumored 300 and it's 301 million is not true. They came back and said, before Depp get too excited, a representative for the actor told NBC News, this is made up. So it ain't happening. But I think we all knew that. I mean, just the cost alone, $301 million for Johnny, that is just not going to happen. I mean, he was already presented in court in the $20 to $30 million range, with $50 million would be inclusive of the back end deal. Another friend of Johnny's has been fighting to clear his name for decades. And he posted recently, he's been trying to get, so a little background. Damien Echols was charged with this killing of those 3 teenage boys and long time ago. He's maintained his innocence. They've all maintained their innocence always. What happened was got a lot of stacked evidence against them. So they arranged to take a deal. It's called the Alford plea. An Alford plea is a guilty plea in which a defendant maintains their innocence and does not admit to the criminal act they are accused of, but admits that the prosecution has sufficient evidence to persuade a judge or jury to find the defendant guilty and thus agrees to be treated as guilty. Both the Alford plea and a no contest plea are the functional equivalents of a guilty plea. A defendant who enters an Alford plea pleads guilty but claims to be innocent. With the no contest plea, a defendant accepts punishment but doesn't admit guilt. So both kinds of pleas result in convictions. So they accepted this plea, which is a guilty plea, and they didn't have to serve jail. So he's been trying to clear his name ever since, and they've been trying to get the DNA resampled and retested. And they were first met with, oh, I'm sorry, where all that was stored, that building burnt down. You can't do it anymore. And after much investigations, it was found that it still did exist. So he petitioned the court to get it all retested. Sadly, he was denied. The judge said that if we wanted to test the DNA, we should not have taken the Alford plea. She even tried to shame me for it. The only problem with that reasoning is the number of men I know on death row who were asking for DNA testing up until the moment they were executed. The reason they were denied, unbelievably so, was the judge ruled only inmates could request new DNA. And because they accepted the plea, they were not inmates. Andrea commented on this. There are plenty of problems with that reasoning. An Alford plea is where you specifically say that you are not guilty, but fear the risk of losing at trial. How easy for a judge to say, go to trial if you're so innocent, when they've never had to gamble their life on a verdict. And I like Andrea. She's very thoughtful and very experienced. Was a defense attorney. People who didn't commit the crime plead guilty every single day because the state has enormous power to destroy lives if you fight it, and overwhelming structural advantages throughout trial and appeal. I feel bad for Damien. It looks like he's never going to get to clear his name, although he stands and maintains his innocence, and Johnny stood up for him. And that's how we became aware. There's been some documentaries out that are worth watching, some books, if you want to get more information on that. And it's something I might consider trying to cover and bring to light in a few videos. I think that's all I have for this week. Amber Heard's still planning to file appeal. I'm starting to gather some information to do a separate video on that. And I'm still covering the Brooks versus Depp trial. There's still a possibility that can settle. It's a civil case, and 95% of the civil cases do settle, so it won't be unheard of. And I wouldn't blame Johnny, after sitting in court for 6 weeks and waiting 6 years to finally clear his name, that he just doesn't want to see another courtroom. But I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you like these little pops of information. And please subscribe, share, like, comment. I try to answer comments, and I appreciate all your help in helping my channel to grow. Thanks very much. Bye, all.